Somebody that drives himself to and from events, somebody that's very independent, and somebody that I will say credit to you, because Jesus Christ, you must have some serious jet lag right now.
Yeah, I'm all right. All these people have been struggling coming back from Orlando, and I do it all the time, really, but I just get my sleeps in like chunks. So 3 or 4 hours there, you know what I mean, like an hour here or something like that. But bit tired today, but looking forward to tomorrow night. This fight's really grown over the last week, particularly the last 3 days of head-to-heads, and I'm pumped for it, actually. Like, I feel like when these two come together, I actually feel quite excited. So looking forward to it.
We can touch back on Orlando. Sandy Ryan, what a beautiful performance from her. I'm going to be biased, but I'm not. I'm going to say it as I saw it. I thought that she won the fight. What's it like for you, the promoter that promotes both of those girls?
Yeah, difficult, because like I text Rick Ramos and I said, look, well done and everything, but I just want to let you know I thought Sandy won the fight, and obviously I don't want to just lie and say, oh, it was a really close fight. Like, she won the fight 8-2 or 7-3, in my opinion, and judging's subjective, but the problem with a 97-93 scorecard to McCaskill, you just can't give Sandy Ryan 3 rounds in that fight. Like, and a draw, I don't think you can give it a draw, but the 97-93 is just like, wow. And even like, if you think about it, the most flattering scorecard for Sandy Ryan was 96-94, which is 1 round off a draw. So really, actually, it weren't even that close. But I felt like these 2-minute rounds are very difficult to score. Jess did come back in the fight, but Sandy dominated, particularly the first half of the fight, and I think she deserves to be unified champion, but we'll look to do it again.
How do you feel about Sandy Ryan developing under yourself, you know, a fighter that you took under the wing from the very beginning? She suffered that loss, she went away, she come back, she really went to ground, dug deep, and became a better fighter. What does it feel like for you as her promoter? That trust in her?
Very proud of Sandy. I think that she's a great role model to young fighters and obviously young girls who are taking up the sport, because boxing's been her life forever. You know, I remember going down to Sheffield to see AJ, and I'd see Sandy down there. I'm talking like 8-9 years ago, and you know, she was a young girl, young woman who just dedicated to the GB team, and obviously she's got tremendous achievements as an amateur. Then she turned pro, and she was quite, you wasn't Larry, do you know what I mean? But she was quite loud on social media. Every head-to-head, she was like, I remember her debut, she was like putting the headbutt in and stuff like that. She'd come in a little bit fleshy at the weight. She was a couple of pound over a couple of times, and she just thought that her ability and her talent would get her through these levels. She took a massive step up in her third fight against Farias. Was it the right fight to take? I think if she was right, yes. But what it actually did was probably changed the direction of her career, and actually may be the fight that takes her to where she may end up going. So she did that. Then she went straight back into the rematch, and then for the rematch, everything changed. You know, in camp, like, and then all of a sudden came out like shredded. And since then, like, you have to understand, it's a really short career. So when I was with AJ recently, someone said to him, oh, what's your motivation? How do you stay so disciplined? And he said, I kind of said to myself, you got 10 years. He said, funnily enough, I'm 11 in now. He said, but I thought to myself, it's not a massive commitment to try and be great, like that part of your life. So if you're an athlete or if you're a fighter, and Sandy's going from, I don't know, 25 to 35, at 35, you're done. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's a really tough sport, and the sacrifices are hard, but is it a sacrifice? I mean, you know, what is a sacrifice? Like, if you love something and you've got a passion for something, is it even a sacrifice? Like, she's fighting on the biggest stages for the world titles. Yeah, she's locking herself away in Portugal. You know, but then you might say, well, have you seen it out in Portugal? It's bloody lovely. Now, the work's hard, the runs are hard, the spars are hard, but is it really hard? And that's sometimes what you have to ask yourself. It's like, you know, what people say, oh, Eddie, you're here, there, you must be. Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. It's tiring. Sometimes you want to do it. But is it really hard? Like, I love it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, everything's hard, but is it worth it? I think is a better question. And what Sandy has done is just made sure she gets the most out of her talent. And I think in life, you can look back with no regrets when you work like that and you have that kind of mindset. So Sandy Ryan will be able to look at herself post-career, whatever happens, and go, I gave it everything. Couldn't have done any more. That's a lovely feeling. And she's already won a world title. She should be unified. She'll get the chance to be unified again. She could be undisputed. So she's got a dozen fights ahead of her. But it was disappointing when, she said, I just felt like that was going to change my life. Her life will still be changed, but it just might take a little bit longer.
Setting examples for your fighters, like you said, you're here, there, everywhere, always putting in the solid graft. Shining that beacon for your fighters to actually say, fair enough, you're not getting in the ring, but there's still a work ethic that you have as obviously the owner of Matchroom to set fast for your fighters. What does that mean to you when they start mirroring that hard graft that you put in?
I've never really thought of it like that.
Hard work, isn't it?
Again, what I do is a lot easier than what they have to do. Like, especially physically. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm a machine at the moment, but I just think that I look at, I wake up in the morning, I look at all their social media and all their stories, particularly out of Sims's gym. I mean, I look at Jordan and George, and I might wake up at 7, and then there's a story an hour ago where they've been on Leon C steps, like throwing up, and I think, fuck that. Do you know what I mean? But then maybe they couldn't fly to LA, go out for dinner, have a meeting, wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym, and then have another meeting, then get on a plane, and then go back, and then go to Manchester, and then back to Birmingham, and then, do you know what I mean? So everyone's got different, so everyone's got adversity or parts of their life which are tough. Sometimes that's in your job, sometimes that's in your personal life, sometimes that's in your family life, sometimes that's just life in general. So, but that's also part of life. Like, you got to be tough enough, really. And I think there's a real, this whole sort of mental health and stuff like that. And I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I would have just said,
leave it out.
Like my dad would say, like if I went to my dad and said, Dad, I'm struggling a bit at the moment, I feel a bit down and low, he would go to me, honestly, what? I would go, I feel a bit depressed. He would go, shut up. Honestly, I like that. And I don't mind saying it. And he's getting better. But like that old school mentality of, he would go to me, slap yourself, like look at yourself in the mirror, look at what you got, look. And it's like, but what you've got doesn't actually affect all the time how you feel and your mentality. So, and I would, in that instance, I've had chats about this with him before, like about how, because I've just talked about in general, like my kids growing up and how now it's like, that is a thing. It never used to be a thing where, and he was like, I just don't I said, yeah, but how someone feels is not reflective of how big their house is or how many acres they have out the back. Do you know what I mean? He thinks it is a lot of the time. His answer would be, look at your house. Look at your bit, like your holidays you go on. It's like, yeah, but if you're not happy inside, it don't matter what you got. Nah, he'd be like, nah, what are you talking about? But just because he's happy all the time doesn't mean everybody else is. So, I think that you need to live a life with passion and enjoyment, and that's the most important thing. And I think as I've got older, that's the one thing that I found more than anything. Because I've got a lot of unbelievable traits from my dad, but I've got a lot of probably negative traits, which is more that where he is money mad. Okay. Money mad.
He's an accountant, or was it?
But not just that, he's from a council house in Dagenham, right? He used to clean cars to try and make money, and everything growing up for him was, I want that big house. I want to take myself out of here. I want to, which I could never, I've had the opportunity to achieve myself. Must be the greatest feeling, the greatest achievement in life, right? But he's still money mad to this day. Do you know what I mean? And it's a competition because it's business, but like for him, money equals success. Yeah, but I say in all these interviews and my podcast, success is an individual interpretation. So you can't say that's wrong. You can just say that's not my interpretation of success. He views success of, how did the business do? How many good shows did we do? How much money did we do? How many tickets did we sell? That's just his life. And listen, I'm 90%, but I'm a little bit softer than him in that respect of, I could be doing all that, but not, like 2 years ago, like when I was a bit larger and like just a bit more, I was just knocking myself out all the time, but I wasn't really looking after myself. And I was like, it was hard to actually enjoy things, and like I was just tired all the time, and I was like, do I really want to do this? And like I've got to go to that now, and I've got to go to that now. So I just turned around and was like, look, let's try and be healthier, get in shape. And now I feel like I have so much more energy. I can come to these things, and when I have to do 30 interviews, it's not get back in the car and just go, I just can't do it anymore. Like, what's tomorrow? Oh, tomorrow you got to fly to Dublin at 5 a.m. and do another, like, it's like, because that's not enjoyable. Like, you can't go to bed at night and go, I just don't want to do it anymore. So being healthy is a good part of that. It doesn't solve everything, but at least it gives you the drive to sort of, and it's been a big part of my progression as an individual. And I think that's important. Everyone needs to progress as an individual. You've got to be selfish sometimes. I think family's really important, friends are really important, but you've got to look after yourself. And that's what my dad's always said. Like, number one, look after yourself. 2, look after your family. 3, look after your people. 4, look after your community. 5, look after your city. And 6, look after your country. And that's like his mentality, but it starts with yourself. Do you know what I mean? And I do think that's important, because you can just try and please people, you can just graft away, you can do this, and then by the time you know it, you're 40, 50, 60, and you look back and you go, did I really live my life? Do you know what I mean? That's a horrible thought, because I'm 44, and that scares me sometimes. And you never know till you get there. Do you know what I mean? You can't say at 44 that at 60 or 70 you will look back and go, was I really happy? Did I really live my life? Did I do the right things? So you can only do what feels right at the time, which again is sort of, but also that's, if you're doing the right things and you're giving it your best and you're trying your best, at least you can say that. But I often are fearful of that conversation with yourself when the time is up on the planet. Do you know what I mean? Just to say, right, and they come in and they go, just to let you know, Mr. Hearn, you've only got a few days to live. And you go, right. I remember when my granddad passed away and I went to the hospice and I was looking at him, he was 96, so great life, and I just sort of looked at him and I think he had a few hours left or a day, and I just thought, wow, life's mad. You've got all these worries, you've got all this stuff, and then, what do you think he's thinking now? I know what he's thinking now. He's thinking, I can't believe, it's done. And I can't believe what really mattered. Nothing really. Obviously, how you feel, your family, but all that stuff I used to worry about, the paycheck or doing that or my time's up. So goodbye, everybody. Do you know what I mean? And then another one goes. I'm not saying he'll be forgotten about, but the next one comes. And guess what? My kids have grandkids, and then it just, and then off you go. His time's up, her time's up, and it's just that's life. So, it's a very deep one, but I think as you get older, you really start to get it a little bit more. And I was saying to Parsons the other day, I went, "How old are you?" He's like 19. I went, "Fuck." He's out, I said, you ain't got a clue. And not a clue. Because I was that kid at 20, out all the time in clubs. And now I look back at it and think, I actually went out last night to this Conor McGregor party. And there was kids out, drunk everywhere. And I was like, I don't go out at all to clubs or anything. Just because I don't.
It's not your thing.
No, I used to love it. But when I see drunk people falling around, I'm just like, oh my God. And that was me. It's every young kid. But you just look at them and you think, you've got so far to come. But that's the beauty of life, evolving and actually finding out for yourself what life's about. But the scary part is it being too late. Do you know what I mean? So don't leave it too late.
We talk about evolution, and I'm going to touch on one of the things I spoke to Spencer Oliver. I've got to go back to the Anthony Joshua scenario, the skills challenge scenario. I was sat home. I'll tell you why I'm asking you this question, because I always like to explain why. I'm sat at home, I'm looking on Twitter, and I see Frank Warren with one of the princes, kings of... I'm sorry, I'm terrible with geography. Yeah. And then he's sort of alluding to the fact that there's no conversations going on. All the conversations kind of go through him. And then I'm thinking, so what's happening with Skills Challenge? What's happening with AJ Wilder? And I spoke to Spencer Oliver about it. And he was basically saying that Frank Warren's backdoored it in, gone above and beyond, obviously, the guys that were there for the Skills Challenge, and he's now going to probably the main organ grinder, and he's kind of doing that. So Skills Challenge, where is it? Has it disappeared? I don't know, your thoughts, Eddie?
Yeah, so the main organ grinder, as you said, or the person in charge of boxing in Saudi has always been Skills Challenge. So when we did AJ against Ruiz, it was with Skills Challenge. When we did AJ against Usyk, it was with Skills Challenge. There has never been a major boxing event in the kingdom that hasn't been done by Skills Challenge. That's obviously changing. And the new entity or individual or whoever it is now looking to do more, I guess, boxing events. So we received, a proposal from Skills Challenge for the fight with Wilder. We accepted that. So did Deontay Wilder. But obviously, with everything going on over there, they weren't able to get that fight over the line. Now, they've done it before with those 2 fights, so we trusted them, and they're good people, by the way. I'm not saying, they let us down. It just things haven't worked out. That's not a problem. But because we've done the Usyk fight, and because we've done the Ruiz fight, when they tell us it's done, and we were told it's done. So, whether that's our fault for, we just presumed it would be. There's obviously a lot of internal politics of boxing going on.
Right.
I don't think Frank Warren did the deal for Fury and Garner. I think it was done by Spencer, I think his manager and stuff like that. Frank's obviously turned up, linking arms, and he's doing his thing. I would do the same. So he will try and have a relationship now with those people who may put another Fury fight on. We will probably contact those people and say, do you want to do AJ against Wilder? If you don't, no problem, we'll do it somewhere else. But no, there's no issue. Like, we haven't, no one's fallen out with anyone. But Skills Challenge, as I understand it, won't be now delivering big fights in the kingdom. So
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah. I mean, most of what you said is fairly right. It's fair. So backdoored it. I just think this new organisation said we would like to do a fight or an exhibit or an MMA, whatever it is, and they've done it. And then Skills Challenge are no longer doing boxing in the kingdom. So yeah, that's where we're at.
So you're a businessman. Obviously, I'm going to say that you're going to have a plan A, B, and C. You're a strategic. You can see that by the way you put your fights together, your cards together, and the fighters that you have on your cards. What does the strategist do in this scenario? Because yes, we want that fight, but we're aware that maybe it won't be there.
So what we do is we look at the fight itself and where else it can go. And we understand that the money might not be completely the same, but it's still a mega fight. Like we run budgets for Las Vegas. We run budgets for Wembley. We go to other territories in the Middle East who have been approaching us about fights and saying, this fight actually might be available now. And then we get together. The good thing about the fight that didn't happen with Skills Changes, they individually negotiated with both fighters. So, in the past, it's been us and Shelley Finkel and stuff like that. But they went to us and they said, this is what we will offer you for the fight. And we said, done. And they went to Deontay Wilder and said, this is what we will offer you for the fight. And he said, done. Now we have to work together. And we've had positive conversations with Shelley Finkel. They want to make the fight and we do. So now collectively, we're looking at other opportunities to stage that fight. If it drags on, we may end up doing that fight in March or April, and we will probably fight in December. But we need to make that decision in the next week because AJ would need to get into camp.
And how does he feel about it? Because obviously,
chilled. Like, he wants to fight Wilder. Like, he wants the biggest fights out there, but he also wants to fight. He's really enjoying it, and he goes, I want to get back to camp. Like, I fought in April, fought in August. If I fight in December, that's like 3 fights in 9 months. When he had the belts, it's like mandatory here, a month to negotiate. Now it's a purse bid in a month, and before you know it, you've done 3 months. You haven't even got a fight. You know what I mean? So he's enjoying the activity.
So to end on it, I like to end on a positive, and what I will say is it's magnificent work that yourself and Alex have done with the Lynn gym.
Yeah.
I saw loads of ex-amateur fighters from that gym that were reposting that opening yesterday. The work that Matchroom is doing in the community, the Olympics is uncertain really after 2024, but it's kind of like you guys have stepped in, and it's almost like if you created a bridge between the amateur scene and possibly turning pro, giving fighters opportunity. A bit about the Matchroom legacy and what you guys intend to do in the future.
It's about that. I mean, you want to give young fighters the opportunity to progress to the professional code, but for me, it's a little bit more about participation. Like, when you go down to that gym last night, you see all kinds of different kids, right? Kids that, you have to be politically and emotionally correct when you say these things. Kids that are overweight, right? Kids that are from different, religions, race, everything. And no one cares. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, not, and that for me is always the thing. Like, it's so inclusive. It's such a huge part of the community. There's no barriers. No one really cares. And to see a kid that is overweight in there training, that makes me feel like as good as seeing a kid that is unbelievable and has a 6-pack at 12. And because we have a problem in this country with a lot of things. One is obesity, discipline, and gang crime and knife crime. But the other problem is actually, like you said, obesity, not understanding food, processed food, parents that actually don't care. Like, so I think it's really like that actually, when you see a kid that is working hard and could be changing, like, and again, going back to my fitness, stuff like that, how it helped, like it will help their confidence. It will help the energy levels. Might help them in the classroom. Like, that kid is not going to go on and become unlikely, right? So you look at some kids at 12, 10, 14, and you just aren't going to go on and become a world, like, even at that age, someone's got something special. Do you know what I mean? But it's not really about that. It's more about, like, and again, going back to life lessons and learning about life. When you got two kids, it's a lot easier to start looking at kids in general and how their life's playing out, how they are emotionally, their motivation, just giving them something that just clicks to go, like, I've got an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old who's about to turn 14.
He's coming to the boxing?
Yeah, just maybe. So, but the 13-year-old, he's more like, she's a teenager. Do you know what I mean? So she's unbelievable at cricket, right? She could probably go on and play for Essex, English. She's that good. But it's not that cool to her at the moment. Do you know what I'm saying? My 11-year-old hasn't reached that stage yet. She goes to everything. Football 3 times a week, boxing twice a week. She'll throw herself into everything. And like, when I see it, like, I can't tell you how great it feels. I see her out playing football, and then with my eldest, it frustrates the life out of me because I'm like, come on, let's go down the cricket nets. Oh, Dad, no, I'm not doing that. Snapchat streaks, whatever they're called. Like, oh, I've got to send some streaks, whatever they are, and that, get my numbers out. Yeah, not those kind of streaks, but getting numbers out. I'm like, and it's like, so when I see kids working out and training, and also you have to look at the area. Like, you go and walk around the Lynn. I've not come from that background. So although my parents have, and I feel like they embedded a lot into me about being, a real working class guy, I didn't come up from the flats around there, around the corner. And when you go there, you realise, how do you actually, as a kid, when you grow up in a broken home, when you have no role models, when you see no direction or no opportunity or no love, how do you expect, like, how can you achieve anything? Do you know what I mean? Like, it has to come from within. But at that age, and one conversation with someone can change their life. That's one thing that I say to fighters all the time. I said it to Richardson Hitchens in Orlando last week, and I feel it a little bit sometimes, which is an amazing blessing. Like, I can talk to a kid, and I really believe that conversation could change the direction of their life. That's an unbelievable blessing. But I say to fighters all the time, you don't realise, like Richardson Hitchens, I said, when we walk in this gym now, you are God to them. Like, what you say to them will sit with them forever. And he's like, really? I said, mate, you don't understand. And he's talking to him, and the kid's like, yeah. I see that kid, I don't know if you saw it on social media. What's your name, son? He's like, I'll give it everything. What does it take? And I'm thinking, that's gone, but like, so I'm not saying he's going to be a world champion, but that's a blessing. And it's only time. It's an hour here and there. It's not really the greatest sacrifice to make, but that's a legacy beyond doing shows and stuff like that. If we can actually be remembered for helping a community and going back to the 6, you remember? Myself, my family, my community, I think that's a much stronger legacy. And I even, like, I've got grand delusions, or whatever it's called. I feel like I don't want to be a politician, but I feel like I could maybe change the system. And if I can convince the government and local councils that this is a good thing to try and change and stop people stabbing people, stop people carrying weapons, motivate young people, get them off their phone, get them living a healthier lifestyle, that sits with me with a lot more motivation now than I could ever imagine. So, yeah, I think I need to do more in that respect. I need to ruffle some feathers at council and government level. And I think I can do it. I do. I think I've got the voice. I've got enough people's ears online and in these interviews and stuff like that, just to put a little bit of fear into those people, to say, shit, we might actually have to do something here because he might be right, or there's a lot of pressure to do something. Where was the local council last night? Where was the Mayor of London's office? I know that, they've got their problems as well, but you'd think you'd turn up really and go, just want to say, like, and I don't mind giving these clubs money, but I can't do every club, like, and it's not going to take hundreds of millions. It's just going to take a scheme and an idea and some investment to say this is actually. But we all know that by pushing clubs in the community like that, there is no way it can have anything but a positive effect on those kids. So how can it not be considered? Like, all sports get funding or receive funding, and all sports are good. It's not just boxing, by the way, but I just have a real feeling of boxing that when you go in there, you sit down ACOX and stuff like that, you know, like, those kids, Sonny said yesterday, you know, these kids won't get into trouble. I'll put my house on it. You know, one might have a fight at school every now and then, but I'll tell you now, they won't carry weapons. And they won't join gangs. Do you know what I mean? So if you say that to the government, how can they not say, maybe, because they don't go there and they don't see it. But anyway.
What a positive note to end. I will say one thing that I did realise about you years ago is when Patrick Day had his fight. I watched you after the bad news was delivered about him, and that's when I really saw that you actually did give a shit about fighters.
Yeah, I think the problem is working in boxing, sometimes the emotion can be taken out of you. So, like, you know, you not abused online, but like people make up stuff, but like they've got an agendas. And it's like, do you really care anymore? Like, and then when, you know, Sabrina Perez's coach died ringside the other week in front of you, and it's like, again, going back to that life conversation, it's like, wow, like we're so focused in boxing, like, on the business and like doing this show, and he said that, and it's like, life is just so much deeper than that. Do you know what I mean? So when Patrick died, I didn't know. I met him for 2 minutes at a press conference. A lovely, lovely man, but I was ringside. I was 6 feet away from when he got knocked out, and he never regained consciousness. And you know, I saw him being wheeled to the ambulance, and you know, I saw his family rush to the hospital. Like, you know, if that doesn't get you, I don't know what will. And that's not just about boxing. That's just about being compassionate for life. Anyone would have felt the same way. But also, you know, again, although he wasn't my fighter, you always feel a responsibility for that. You hope that when anyone goes in the ring, they come out safely. So, and most fighters will pray before they go in the ring for both fighters, for each other. Do you know what I mean? Which again is the just that shows you what these people are like. You know, if you speak to a fighter, what did you sometimes see them? You know, just that most of them will say, "I prayed for my safety and my opponent's safety." Do you know what I mean? And that's what boxing's about. Like, it's not about going there. And this is a problem, again, at that level. They think boxing's barbaric. You know, at my kids' school, which is a private school, if I went in there and started preaching to the parents saying, we need to start boxing at this school, they'd want me slung out. Boxing? It was barbaric. It's not barbaric in the slightest. So, there you go.
The core values. Listen, Eddie, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I got half an hour out of you today. Amazing. Right. See you tomorrow.